Have you ever purchased a car on eBay that wasn't quite as described? Well, in this episode of The Wrenchman, David and I tackled Todd's 1957 eBay Beetle with steering, brake, clutch, and electrical issues. Follow along as we try to get Todd back on the road.
It should not wobble like that.
Contact.
Ever had a project that's stuck, stalled, or over your head?
Sometimes it just takes an extra set of eyes or an extra set of hands.
Enter the Wrenchman.
Follow along as we travel the country getting classic cars back on the road.
Pretty nice morning here, man.
Yeah, it's not a bad place.
Nice.
Hey guys,
Good morning.
I'm Todd.
Morning. Morning, Todd. David.
David, Matt, how are you?
Good. So what we got here?
57 Beetle, it needs a lot of help.
All right, well, let's see it. And what do you mean by a lot of help?
Electrical problems, the thing won't start. Clutches got some issues, and the brakes need some help.
All right, well, that covers a lot of systems.
Yeah?
It does.
Especially on a 57 bug.
Yeah, that's pretty much all of them.
That's right.
I ended up buying this on an online auction 4 years ago, and it was a New Year's Eve purchase, a little bit of an impulse purchase, and the car was somewhat
Is
misrepresented.
that late in the evening or early in the evening?
It was kind of late, yeah.
All right, well, hey, it doesn't look like you did too bad. This is pretty cool.
Yeah, the car looks pretty solid. The bones are pretty good, but the drive home from picking it up at the transport was a little scary.
Hence the steering questions.
Yep.
Well, Matt, looks pretty good. Let's get this project rolling.
I'm ready to tear into it.
The car came from an eBay auction. The auction ended on New Year's Eve, and I ended up winning the auction at, I think it was like 10 o'clock at night. And it was the same night that I met my girlfriend now. And I remember her saying that she wanted to drive it, and I was like, for sure. And that was almost 4 years ago.
I'm going to look at what he has now because we're going to want to try to start this before we tear out all the wires and see if I can just kind of reconnect things based off of this diagram.
I'm thinking part of the issue with the steering is whatever's going on in this front corner, because it should not wobble like that. So we're going to need to pull the hubcap, get the wheel out of the way, and let's look at our suspension pinpoints and see what's loose, because that's not good. Got her. What I see here is a big ridge that's wore in here. Hey, Matt.
Yeah.
I think I found out the problem with this right front corner.
Yeah?
So these link pins, there's a large wear area, see it?
So we thinking we need those?
Yeah, we need some fresh ones of these. All right, was that battery taking any charge at all?
It appears the battery's starting to hold a charge. I had 5.9 and it wasn't dropping like a rock. So I've got it hooked up still. The charger's just acting real funny on it.
Okay.
So we can hook this back up, I think, and try to crank it. 5.9 should be enough at least to spin the starter and see if we need a starter or not.
All right, can you, do you want to try the key up there? Just to see if that switch portion of the key works?
Ready?
Yeah.
It's not cranking, but that doesn't mean the wires are connected.
Yeah, okay. Let me catch it from down here then.
Okay.
I'm getting a spark, but I'm not getting any.
It's not kicking over?
Oh. Yeah. We'll add that to the list as well, no big deal.
I'm just going to change out this electrical harness because the old one's been painted over. There's a bunch of black wires. I'm not really sure what's going on with those. And with only 3 days to get this Beetle done, I'm not going to waste any time on it. Normally with a car, the electrical harness is going to run along the floor pan, but with these Beetles, they run up through the roof. So before I pull this old wiring harness out, what I need to do is tie a string to it, pull it through the top so I don't lose my channel, and then use that string to pull the new harness back in. I've got the wire harness ran back, and I've got the circuitry for all of the lights back here done. Now we're missing some parts for those lights, but once we have them, plug them in, we should have tail lights, turn signal, brake lights, and a little light for our license plate should work.
I want to pull this drum off, not only so I can inspect the brake shoes and such. We do have a little bit of leak that appears to be transaxle grease from the seal on the shaft. So as long as that seal's used someplace now, we can cross-reference and get it.
So since this car had those little flip outside turn signals, it's got a slightly different harness here to run to those. The new harness doesn't have accommodation for those, and I don't want to remove this since I don't have something to replace it with. So I'm going to be thinking a little bit here.
The next thing we have to make this run and go down the road is figure out why the clutch doesn't want to disengage or work right. We'll just pull the clutch pedal right out of the way. So that's where the clutch cable hooks onto. We give it a go? There it is.
All right, so I see two things that were wrong with this clutch. Basically, the cable wasn't returning smoothly because it was hanging up in the casing. Secondly, it was so tight that it wouldn't disengage the arm. So basically, it was always applying even when the pedal was returned. So Todd and I are going to grease up this old cable and put it right back in and go from there.
I bench tested these side markers and they didn't work, but I went ahead and wired that other side and it popped out. So my guess is bench testing it either didn't make a good enough connection or that battery just was too gone to do the job.
The brake pedal wants to keep falling to the floor forward. The pedal stop is broke. The little tab is off of here. If I take a small bolt and a nut and weld it on here, I think I can make a stop.
I'm hoping my assessment of the damage here on that pedal arm will work and my brake pedal will sit where it's supposed to sit.
All right, so far, headlights are done, wired, happy. The rear harness is basically done. The ignition switch is completely wired. I'm working on the headlight switch, the fuse box, which really only powers brakes, headlights, turn signals, that sort of thing. And then I've got this turn signal harness that I made and refinished. And really, I'm just tidying up a few last things, and then we're going to start putting fuses in it, and we'll think about that new battery.
Fancy new starter. Let's see if it's the same as our other one. Looks like it's the same. Cool. Matt, we got a fresh starter. Alright, well, I'm done here. I'm going to slide on out.
I think we're pretty well set under here. So I'm going to pop the battery in, and then we're going to see if she'll start. Okay. All right. Contact.
Good. We don't have any fuel coming up yet, but I wouldn't that doesn't surprise me.
It's got a long ways to go.
I'll keep it running this time with some fuel here.
All right. All right. Ready?
Yeah. What do you think of that, Todd? Let's shut her down.
All right.
Nice. Nice. All right. Nice.
There you go. One running Volkswagen.
In 4 years.
There we go.
Nice.
Thanks, fellas.
Day one.
Day one, success. All right, let's tidy up some wrenches so we got a somewhat of a clean start for the morning and
Sounds good.
call it a happy hour.
When I saw the Wrenchman came up and it was a new series, I clicked on it and I watched a couple episodes, and I think I sent in a Facebook message to Haggerty instantly, and I just put a picture of this car and told a little story about where it came from and how I couldn't get it running. So I got an email from, I'm not sure who it was just the Haggerty Facebook account, which I guess was Matt, and said that the Wrenchmen were interested in this project, and I was thrilled.
Well, it was a good day yesterday.
It was, yeah.
Well, I got some of those oddball parts that showed up yesterday,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I'm going to put the seal kit in the back end here, and we got to tidy up the brakes all the way around.
Yep. And I'll finish up the little bit of electrical stuff I've got left and probably swap out some fluids before we get going too far.
Well, let's get after it.
Yep.
I'm going to initially just work on getting all this stuff cleaned up because the seals were just leaking everywhere. It soaked this brake shoe. I need to change the brake shoes out, and then I'm going to put a fresh seal into the cap, and then the subsequent seals that seal off that shaft from all the fluid from the transaxle coming out.
Right now I'm trying to figure out some of the basically fuse box wiring because they're not real descriptive in the instructions that came with the wiring kit. So I'm having to trace down wires with the multimeter instead of just blindly following the kit. The way you use a multimeter to figure out where a wire goes is you set it to your ohm setting, which tests continuity. So you test this side. Let's say I want to see if for sure this red line goes over to this red line. There you go. Now I see that it's 0 ohms between the two, which means those are directly connected.
All right, so we're back over here on this right front. If you remember when we tore it apart, we had some issues with wear, and this whole front corner was just rocking like crazy. So it wore out these upper and lower pins. So here's what a new one looks like. This is actually a good used one, but a fresh one doesn't have any ridges in it, and it won't lollygag around like this. It won't be bouncing all over. So I'm going to knock these out, grease them up real nice. They should slip in fairly well. Clean everything up, and get this all buttoned back together. We got those pins all installed. They're tight. Everything feels good here. Got a little rock that's a little bit of wear from that kingpin, but it'll be just fine. I just need to get this drum cleaned up, repack the bearings, get everything put together, tighten it down, and then this corner's done, and we'll get on to the left side.
Now that I've got the electrical all done, it's time for some oil.
So, fresh wires, fresh plugs, new cap, and a new rotor. Points look fine. That's it. We're done here.
All right, David, you got it to steer, stop, and shift.
And you got it to start because you got that wiring all straightened out.
I did.
And the headlights work, taillights work. So at this point, I think there's one thing left to do, Todd.
Let's take it for a ride.
All right, let's do it.
Hop in, man.
Not slipping,
Right? All
there's
right.
third gear.
Nice. Cool. Good deal.
Yeah, so when I got this car 3.5 years ago, it was New Year's Eve, and I ended up meeting Helene at a party, and I showed her this auction that I just won, and I promised her that I'd give her a ride in it, and I haven't been able to make good on that promise. So I'm so excited that I can do that now.
That's awesome.
David, I don't know about you, but I'm pretty proud of that little bug.
Little bug sounds really nice and looks pretty.
That's right.
Well, hey, I think Todd's going to have fun, and we got one more classic back out on the road.
We did. Good job, sir.
Likewise.
All right.
Let's go to our next adventure.
Yeah. What do you suppose the name of that bar is going to be?
I'm not sure, but I bet you it's going to
I feel like I got a gift here. This is having a crew like this show up and just sort of take care of it is huge. And the wrenchmen and everybody that's involved is just, they're straight up. Everybody's does their job, works hard, is competent, and super nice. Everybody on the team. It was really a pleasure.